Hey, welcome back to Skids Garage. Today we're going to get the 180 ready for drifting next weekend. What are we doing next weekend? We're going to Archerfield Drift Park, somewhere where I haven't been in a very long time. Probably 3-4 years since I've been there. Archerfield Drift Park is probably about an hour's drive from here. It is based on a go-kart track. It has had plenty of upgrades since I've been there, and it is sure to be a rocking time. In fact, there's a lot of my friends are going out there for the same event, so it should be a great weekend. We do have a few things to cover off on the 180 to get it ready. As you remember, last time I went drifting at the XMAS bash, I did have a massive coolant leak, and at the time I thought it might have been a Welsh plug. I guess the drift gods were looking down on me because turns out that it was only a heater hose underneath, where a hose clamp has basically pinched the hose and caused it to leak. The other thing we're going to do is refresh the brake fluid, throw in some braided lines in there as well. Put a braided clutch line on as well because my clutch slave line was leaking a little bit as well, so we're just going to refresh that. Yeah, so basically just getting the car prepped and obviously do a service on it as well. Let's have a look at what we're going to do. So this is the hose in question here. That goes in under the manifold somewhere over there. What actually happened, this was on the end of it like that, and where the hose clamp goes into, you can see right there, it basically had a pinched a hole in it, which caused a massive coolant leak. So I basically cut it back and away we go. Have had a care package from GK Tech arrive, just some of the braided lines in there to go on the car. You know, empty clutch fluid reservoir that's looking pretty sad, so we'll be good to give that a refresh as well. The other thing we're going to do is just give it a good going over front to rear and make sure it's ready for drifting. So let's have a look what we can find wrong with it, eh? So we've got the bore scope just here, and if we come down here, we can see that that is the culprit there. So that's the hose that we need to join this one onto. So we're going to go in, around, under and up into there. Good thing about having one of these things is it makes it a lot easier to see what the hell's going on underneath the manifold here. There we go. So we've got the hose clamp on, the hose is on. All we need to do is basically tighten it up now, and we'll fix the leak. How good's that? Alright, so that's all tightened up now. Can't really see anything through there. So that hose clamp's all good, and that's one of the things ticked off the list. We've got our braided brake line kit here by GK Tech. Plan is to remove all the wheels. Then I've got a friend coming over. He's gonna jump in the driver's seat, obviously pump the pedal and bleed the brakes. After we do that, we're gonna do the clutch master to slave brake line as well, which is down there. After that, well, I guess not after, but today we're gonna also bleed the coolant, do the oil change as well. The other thing that I forgot to mention earlier is we need to move the wastegate screamer pipe to face down there somewhere. So Archerfield Drift Park, they don't allow screamers out the bonnet or out the guard, purely because it is in a residential area. But you do need to run a muffler, which we have, and it's just a matter of undoing the clamp. Can't remember what this is called right now, but undo the clamp. We're just going to rotate it and just face it down, and we'll be sort of good to go. Okay, so with the brake line, there's basically a fitting on the other side of here. It's like a little clip that you just need to remove, then this will come out of the bracket, and then we can remove the hard line, which is this one, from the soft rubber line here, and replace that. So let's get that done. So with the retainer off, we can remove this brake line. It is very tight, so we'll probably start on this end first to give it some slack to be able to remove. Right, so with that undone, we just lift this up. Obviously make sure you've got something to catch the fluid in. And that just comes free like so. Just make sure you get the copper washers. This one's stuck to the bottom there. The kit does come with new bolts and washers, and obviously one goes in the bottom and one goes in the top. So now let's remove the other end, which is over here. Okay, now that we've got the line all loose, we can just give this a bit of a pull. Depending on how old your car is, it might be a bit tight, but now that we've pulled that out, then we can undo the nut on the top here, and that just removes the line. Now, being that your brake lines are going to be probably 50,000 years old, it might be worth a bit of spray of some WD in there, just to free it up a bit.
3 hours later.
So no word of a lie, I've probably spent the last half an hour struggling with this brake line, trying to use a spanner. Jumped online and looked at buying a flare nut set. So they're a spanner that, instead of being like an open end like that, they open like so. All the reviews online from Bunnings, Supercheap, Repco for their spanners, they had a lot of 1-star reviews. The fact that the flare kept springing open. So I basically reverted to Google, found a thread on a Driftworks forum, and they reckon to use a set of vice grips, which I have. So a set of vice grips on the top here, and then just the normal pliers on the bottom there to hold it. And this has managed to break it free. So I think for the other side on the rear, we're going to stick with using the vice grips method, purely because it's just going to make it a lot easier. I mean, these brake lines are probably 30 years old, never been undone before, and they're just super tight. And I was just rounding the nut using spanners and all sorts of things. So just a heads up that vice grips are probably your best bet to do these. Now that we've broken the thread, it's just pretty easy to just undo it by hand. But realistically, getting this undone was probably the hardest bit of the job. So that's it, and we just do the reverse to put the braided line on. All right, so we've got our brake line here. This is the fittings here. So you want to have one of these brass washers on the top and the bottom. So we just remove this one here. Pop it in like so. Doesn't matter which way it goes. I'm just going to put GK Tech at the top so it looks cool every time I change my wheels. Put the other fitting on there like so. And then, so you basically want to have one at the top, one at the bottom with the nut like so. And then we take this over to here and try and do it one-handed, but that goes in there like so, and you tighten it up. So you've got, see this little bracket at the back here, there's like a little U shape, and this fitting sits inside there, and that basically keeps it nice and tight. And then you just do this up, obviously with a ratchet, but not too tight, but you just want to make it nice and snug. tighten it up. And it's important to put the locking tab back in. So this just slides into the factory hole. And then this locking tab we took out earlier just pops straight in like so. Perfect. All right, finished product. This is all done up. That's all done up in there, and we've got plenty of slack, which is good. The previous brake line was incredibly tight along here because I have got the hydro kit, which does add this spacer on to mount the second caliper. What actually happened is because it pulls the whole hub this way, it does stretch the factory brake line. So I would probably suggest doing this even if you're just doing a hydro swap. It is better to have a braided line than the factory one. So that's the rear done. Let's move on to the front, and then we just repeat the same for the other side. Okay, so for the front, we've got your nut here to undo, and then you've got your line that comes here, and it's actually on the back just there. So let's get these undone. I am gonna start with spraying some WD on there just to clean it up a bit. Like with the other side, make sure the copper washer is gone. This one is in the cesspool there. Now we just need to undo this nut just here. Let's try with the spanner first. It's not budging at all. Okay, so like the rear, we're just going to go straight in with the vice grips. It just seems to be the best and safest method to not destroy anything. There we go. Once you've broken the seal, you can then just use a spanner like so. All right, a lot easier than the rear. Now we just need to remove the retaining clip like so. And then the brake line just comes out. There we go. Okay, so the new line here, again, it's just same installation like as before. This piece goes in the U, just there. Obviously with the copper nut on the top and the bottom. So let's get that done. We've got the brake line in there. We get our retaining clip, push that in. Like so. And then we install the line back in. And again, just make sure it's nice and snug. All done. Now we just need to repeat the process with the other side, with the other lines. Exactly the same as how we did this side, just on the other side. So I've just finished off the last side, and as I was putting stuff back together, something out the corner of my eye caught me. Let's see if we can zoom in on it. There's a socket hiding down there. Let's pull it out. What do we have here? Is that 10mm. All right, now we're gonna do the clutch line from the master. It does have a hard line at the moment, but as I mentioned before, it is leaking down the bottom, which we'll have a look at when we get down there. If you have a look, we've got a nut at the bottom, which is like a brake line fitting. So we're just gonna undo that, and then there's one fitting at the bottom. All right, now we've got the car up in the air a bit. We can see that where it's leaking from, you basically got out of the bottom of that fitting just there. So what this line's going to do, it's going to replace the whole section that comes down here, and it's going to go straight into there. So let's undo this. We can remove the line and then put the brand new line in. So we've run the new braided line up to the clutch master, and then we've just got a fitting that's going to go on like so. While I was doing this, Wild Bevan arrived. He's going to help bleed all the clutch and brake lines. So let's get this done. All right, clutch line done. Like with the brake lines, just remember that you've got the copper washer on both sides. Now it's time to get it all bled up. All right, so we've got everything all bled up, just doing an oil change, dropping the old oil. We've drained most of the coolant, or what was left of it after the leak. And let's just get a general service done. So while everything's draining, we've got a GK Tech brace to go in. Came with some stickers, which is unreal. But that's the brace there. Just gave it a quick test fit, and because drift car, it doesn't fit. No product, no problem of the fault. It's just that that's pretty beaten there, and these edges are here as well. I don't know if it's actually gonna do anything. What do you reckon, Bevan?
All right, maybe something.
I only got it because if I spent over $200 at GK Tech, I got free shipping. So I guess they
You got upsold into a new race car.
yeah, they got me there. But oh well, we'll see how it goes. All right, so it's yeah, perfect. And brilliant. That slides in. Let's get this all on. All right, so after a bit of persuading with the hammer, we got the rear mounting point in. Again, if your car isn't as low as mine, you probably won't have to use persuading tools, but it is what it is. New rail is installed. Let's see how long it takes for me to basically skim that flat from scrubbing. So just putting oil in it. Don't ask me why I use this, but Luke swears by it, and he builds race engines for Gaby, and they don't really blow up, not much, so we'll just put it in as well. I've been using this in all my changes for every time with this engine, and it seems to go all right. It is like honey though, so we'll just let that sit in there for a while. All right, so we're using demineralized water. I would just use normal tap water, but Luke yells at me if I do. So again, I have to do what he says. And this time I'm using race coolant. Apparently, because it has no glycol, it works better and makes your car cooler. But it will freeze if you live in Antarctica. Because we live in sunny Gold Coast, this is good to go. Oh, it smells good.
What does it smell like? Oh, it smells like fucking acid. It's like cough syrup.
Oh. So the instructions say 100 ml per 1 litre of water. So we're just going to put 500 ml in this container. These little things are pretty neat because you can get this little stopper and put it in there and then lift the whole barrel off and put it back into your drum. And they allow you to make it bleeding really easily because this then becomes the highest point of your engine. Normally you'd jack the car up in the front and make it as high as possible to get this tall. But I had to buy this one because the other one, Stake Santa, took and had his way with it, so no one really wants to use it anymore. So this video is coming out one day later than what it was meant to do, because last night, instead of working on this, I went out with the boys doing this. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Skids Garage. Thanks for coming along with me and doing some minor upgrades while also doing some service items. Can be a bit boring sometimes, but you know, this is all the prep you put in to make sure that you're super reliable on track. Super keen for Archerfield Drift Park on Sunday. It's time to enjoy a cold drink. I'm not sure if you've had one of these before, but Talavs and Luke got me onto them. They are bloody delicious. So I'm gonna kick back, enjoy one of these, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.